What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Dudes Who Bet Daily. It's September 28th. I can't believe it is already the 28th of September here. We're closing in on the last 3 months of the year. Having a blast here for the last 3 months doing Dudes Who Bet Daily. Excited to keep it going and keep the run going. Mr. Halterman, you notice that we have a Blues player in the background? How can we bury the lead? Preseason hockey, baby.
Yes, I'm very excited to see that Brendan Shin is in the background. By the way, I was at that game last year where that picture was taken. They beat Minnesota in overtime in the regular season. I was right there. I was sitting right there, right like 8 rows off the ice right when he scored. So, yeah, I love it.
I got to say, I love watching hockey. Betting regular season hockey is right up there with betting the NBA. One of the toughest things I think you can do, just because the ebbs and flows day in and day out, it's so hard to stay even-keeled when you're just going to get some awful beats. You're going to get some players that don't play certain nights. You got to watch the goalie matchups constantly if you want to have prayer. One of the toughest sports to bet.
I think it is tough, but I think if you go into it knowing, look, I'm going to have streaks where it's bad, I do think you can find some lines that work out for you. I think you can find some value in betting it. But yeah, it's a lot like baseball. I kind of, it's just day in, day out constantly. And you said it, the goalie thing, it's kind of like a pitching matchup, right? And some nights a goalie's not going to have it, and you're going to be like, what the hell? Like, he shut him out last night, and then 2 nights later, he's given up 6. That's the NHL. That's hockey for sure. You got to keep it even keel. That's the biggest thing about betting it. I'm sure we'll have a lot of bets on the show once it kind of gets going.
Yeah, it's going to be a popular thing to play Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm guessing, once we have once baseball slows down or hockey ramps up. I mean, I may actually go to hockey early in the season versus baseball, especially if you can get some nice plus monies. We'll see how that ends up going. Real quick, we had Stefan Perot on this channel previewing playoff matchups for you. He shot me a text. After 3 days of preseason hockey, the unders are 21-8-2. 21-8-2. That's a heck of a trend early in the preseason year.
Yeah, that is definitely a trend that's pretty crazy. You would think it would be the opposite. It's preseason, wide open, and maybe your goalies are kind of backups and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty crazy to see. I know the Blues have been involved in some lopsided games so far, which actually would have hit the under because the other team hadn't scored very much. So there's that aspect of it. I actually got a text saying bet the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. So there you go. I didn't make it my best bet, but one of the sharps I know is like, listen, the Flyers, bet the Flyers tonight. I was like, all right, I will do that.
I love it. I mean, I enjoy betting preseason football, but I feel like you have so much more information around preseason football, specifically
Yes.
Are the quarterbacks going to start, what offensive linemen are going to start, and you can get an edge that way. Hockey, it's just kind of a crapshoot who's going where and how they're going to gel this early in the preseason. But anyway, that's enough hockey. We talked hockey for 3 minutes to kick off the show. That's probably 3 minutes more than the mass majority of people watching wanted to hear about. So let's talk about one hot take we have so far. So we're going to do a hot take here from the NFL, college football, or horse racing. And then we're going to jump into some best bets for the day. Not too much on the horse racing slate. So it's going to be a little bit quicker of a show. So Aaron, kick us off. Hot take, college football, NFL, or horse racing? Give it to me.
So I'm going to go NFL, and I've got 2, but one I don't know that's a hot take. I'm going to ask you if it's a hot take or not, because maybe other people feel the way I feel. The Cowboys are better with Cooper Rush at quarterback. Is that a hot take or no?
I would say that's pretty toasty, yeah.
Really? Oh, I think I almost thought it was too logical to say it. I think here's the deal. He's steady, right? Can he make the flash plays that Dak makes? No, probably not. He's really steady. And in this year's NFL, it's kind of all you need from your quarterback. There's not what is there, like maybe 3 good teams right now in the NFL? Cooper Rush, very steady quarterback. He's won 2 in a row that they've started. Look, the first game, the Cowboys were awful as a team as a whole. They've definitely, as a team, played better. I think that steady-handed quarterback, especially in this division, I think the Cowboys are better with Cooper Rush at quarterback.
Well, I don't know. Do you listen to Bill Simmons ever?
I don't, no.
He's got something called the Ewing theory, specifically because the one year the Knicks were really good was the year Patrick Ewing got hurt. And sometimes when a star player goes down, all of a sudden every other player around that, the team rallies around that backup, but also everyone elevates their game. And you turn right to Micah Parsons, in my mind, who has been an absolute beast in the 2 games. He was great in the first game, but absolute beast in the last 2 games. That pass rush really stepped up and gave the Giants trouble. Now I was surprised. The Cowboys now 10-1 against the Giants the last 11. They absolutely owned the Giants. It was really the defense that drove that home on Monday night.
But, Cooper Rush made plays in that game. Now, his receivers made plays for him, but CeeDee Lamb also dropped a touchdown pass. So you got to count that as well. It goes both ways. I don't know. I just felt like as far as distributing the ball, it seemed like very good at that. And like I said, maybe it is a little bit of okay, Dak's hurt. All of a sudden Zeke's running a little bit harder. He had a decent game. It maybe there is a little bit of that, but to me, he looks pretty damn good, and he's really good at finding the open guy.
The other thing that I like about him versus Dak, and this is sometimes the thing with quarterbacks that can make plays with their legs, and they kind of rely on that. You see them, especially in college. All of a sudden, they hold on to the ball a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. When you have an offensive line that's struggling, and you don't just get through your progressions and throw it away, and that's very much what Cooper Rush has been doing. He's not been holding on to the ball very long. It protects your offensive line when you get rid of it quickly. Look what Brady does, specifically the last few weeks with that just blown up offensive line down in Tampa. He's getting the ball out in less than 2 seconds. Dak will hold on to the football because he tries to make plays, continue plays, run around with his legs to hit someone deep. And sometimes that can cause trouble via holdings or just creating sacks because that offensive line can't hold up nearly as long.
Yeah, and maybe that is part of it too. He's keeping it real simple. The offense is simplistic with him in there. I don't know. I just really like what I see from him. He's been pretty solid as a backup before, kind of getting this chance to play multiple weeks. So I don't know. Maybe he blows up against Washington this coming week. Who knows? But I don't know. I just really like what I've seen from him. To me, the Cowboys have a lot of weapons that are kind of interchangeable, and he's kind of just distributing the ball and getting it to all of them. So anyway, I think that's my hot take then, if that one counts.
That one does count. I will say Cooper Rush, much better college quarterback name than NFL quarterback name. You wouldn't expect him to be successful at the next level with that type of name. Usually you can tell with the names, and Cooper Rush is very much like, oh, that dude starts for Texas Tech and he's really good, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, my hot take. The most overrated team in the NFL is Jacksonville by a lot.
Ooh.
By a lot. Because people are going to see these 2 wins. And people are all over Jacksonville right now. Top 5, top 8, whatever you want in the NFL. They are wildly overrated. And how do you want, to me, in the market, let's just look at the market. They're catching 6.5 from Philadelphia this week. So it's Philadelphia minus 6.5 at home. Before the season started, Philadelphia was a 9.5 point favorite in that game. You're telling me that Jacksonville is 3 points more impressive than Philadelphia to start off this year? That is wild to me. Because, look, Jacksonville's 2 wins that everyone's talking about. First off, they lost the Commanders the first week when they really should have won, and the Commanders suck, okay? Mm-hmm. Second week, they go and they blow out Indianapolis. But they blew out Indianapolis when they don't have Darius Leonard, when they're missing other defensive pieces, when they're missing both wide receivers, and in Jacksonville, where traditionally Indianapolis plays terrible. Then you go and play San Diego, and everyone's thinking about that San Diego team that just played the Chiefs. Well, look, Herbert's he's not 100%. He's not even close to 60% in that game. By the way, I can't believe he talked himself into the lineup there. That's just a complete situational fail from the organization there. He should never have been playing in that game. But they're also out Staley, their top offensive lineman. They're out Allen, one of their top receivers. They're out J.C. Jackson, their top cornerback. They're out a safety. So you have just a string of injuries that happens to this Chargers team. And so Jacksonville goes and takes advantage of all of this. And now you're seeing everyone pointing at these 2 games where they face 2 depleted, injury-riddled teams and saying that, oh, they're a top X team in the NFL, top 8 team in the NFL, top 10 team in the NFL. That's wild. They're not there. I like Jacksonville. I bet Jacksonville all 3 weeks. That's not accurate. They should not have moved 3 points against Philadelphia, who has looked better than them, significantly better than them all 3 weeks so far.
I get your point. I think you hate the underdog is what you're saying.
No, I love the underdog. I have Jacksonville to win the division. I want Jacksonville to win the division. But no, this is like a 3-point switch. What has Philly done wrong? They haven't been downgraded. So you're upgrading Jacksonville 8 points?
I get it. I definitely think they are a little bit overhyped as of right now. I think a lot of it is people want them to be good because they do have the high profile quarterback. They want them to be good because people hate Urban Meyer, and now wow, not even Urban Meyer. Look how terrible he was. He couldn't win with this team because they're pretty similar to last year. I would say they've added some pieces. That's probably not fair. They're a little better roster wise, but still not like it significantly better. I guess they are a little overrated.
I guess who else would fall into that bucket of overrated team?
Honestly, you know who I think the most overrated team is? I might get knocked off the network for saying it.
Kansas City Chiefs. That's what you get.
I think they're overrated. I really do. You look at their 3 games. Okay, the first game was great. Okay, you're playing like a high school team, the Cardinals. The next 2 games, they've been bad. That Charger game was bad. They were lucky to win. So I think the Chiefs are the most overrated, honestly.
I mean, I don't hate it. I might argue Miami is after that Bills win, which is that brings us to a betting point. If you haven't already bet it, I'm a Dolphins fan. I have quite a bit of coin on the Bengals first half and full game against Miami. That defense played 90 plays on the field a week after playing the Bills in Miami, back-to-back weeks, in just this torrential heat, massive amounts of defensive plays. Now you got a short week with travel to Cincinnati. And oh, by the way, there's a massive hurricane going through Florida. That's not easy to deal with as a player. All your family is there. Everybody is in Florida for these players. So a huge distraction plus two high emotional games, these two massive wins with Baltimore and Buffalo back-to-back. The defense has been on the field a ton. I hate this spot for Miami tomorrow night.
I do too. That is a really hard game to come back from on short rest. I told you right after the game, looking at these guys and embracing, like when Buffalo and Miami were shaking hands or whatever, these teams look dead. They left it all out on the field. And now to play on a Thursday night on the road, that's going to be tough. I almost think the Bills are in a little bit of trouble too. They look just as exhausted. Now they play on Sunday, so that'll help, but they're on the road against the Ravens, definitely a capable opponent. So I think both those teams might bounce off of that game. They left it all out there. So I'm with you. I think that's going to be interesting. And look at the lines. The Bengals. Yeah. I think Vegas expects it too. The Bengals are favored in this game the last time I saw. So, yeah, we'll talk about that a lot tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah, Bengals opened -1.5. Last I checked, it was out to 3.5. And I agree with that move. It's not the Miami team that you've seen the last two games. It's just impossible for them to come back. Josh Allen collapsing into Tua's arms was wild. Was wild. And Tua 100% had a concussion. No way you can tell me that was a back and ankle injury. The dude was stumble bunny. He just barely could stay up. And his offensive lineman running over to keep him up. How was that not a concussion?
That was wild. That was wild that he stayed in the game. And yeah, that was the weirdest embrace ever between two quarterbacks. You hug it out, whatever, but that was almost awkward. I was like, what is he doing? This is weird. Yeah, I know. Okay. So Tua, let's say he had a concussion. It's 3 days, and now he has to go out there. And travel, and like I said, yeah, it's not a good situation for the Dolphins.
No, it's a rough spot for that team. And on the other hand, Cincinnati had a get-right game against the Jets. They look good. The big issue with Cincinnati is that offensive line. The Dolphins' pass rush will be negatively affected by playing 90 plays in 100-degree heat 3 days ago. Everything kind of lines up for the Bengals to have a really nice spot to get a W here over the Dolphins, as much as I hate to say that. You also have a 3-0 Dolphins team who doesn't need this game nearly as much as the Bengals do either. So it's just a lot of things to go. Oh, and by the way, rookie head coach, which is generally a terrible trend on Thursday Night Football as well for the Dolphins, although I love Mike McDaniels. I cannot talk about how much I could gush about Mike McDaniels at this point with what I've seen from other players interviewing him, but we're not going to go into that. Do you want to give us your other hot take real quick?
I was going to say that the Tampa Bay would have been better off if Brady hadn't came back.
I don't know who their quarterback would be, so I'm not sure how to argue that. I do think Tampa is freaking scary if they ever get healthy on the offensive side of the ball. That defense is phenomenal down there.
Okay, the defense is great, no doubt, right? I just feel like the offense would be in a better situation if they knew in the offseason he was gone and he didn't do the whole I'm coming back. You don't know who the quarterback would be, right? They need a quarterback that has some mobility. That's their problem.
One of their problems.
It's the biggest problem in my mind. And it's the problem. Okay, here's the deal. I don't think it's the problem that can be fixed, right? I don't know.
The way you fix it is you get healthy on the offensive line, right? 3 starters out, your center. I think they got Wirfs back last week, or for at least part of the game last week. So you're starting to get healthy, but you need the thing with Brady, and this is why he sucked the last year in New England. You need an offensive line, period. You got to have it. And right now they don't, and they still beat New Orleans, and that Green Bay game was probably way closer than it should have been. They beat New Orleans, by the way, because 4 of 9 plays they turned New Orleans over in that game. 9 plays, they had 4 turnovers.
They beat New Orleans because New Orleans might be the worst team in the league. They're at least bottom 5.
I don't know about Jameis has a broken back and he's playing. He literally that's a pretty tough thing. The other part about this is I cannot remember a season where you've seen so many injuries to offensive lines and quarterbacks that have affected the offensive play. You look at the scoring year over year. The peak was hit, and we talked about this last week too. Peak was hit in 2020 with 49.6 points a game. We're at 43 a game right now. It's because of offensive line injuries and thus quarterback play resulting from those offensive line injuries more than anything else. And it's brutal.
Well, it just quarterbacks underperforming as well, like Russell Wilson in Denver. I mean, that is just I didn't think he was going to just light it up, but holy cow, he looks awful, Somich.
He doesn't want to run. That's what makes him good. That the one drive that he looked halfway decent against the 49ers on Sunday night, he had a scramble. He moves in the pocket. He has to run and take hits, and it just doesn't look like he has any interest in doing so now that he got his bag.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, I thought the Matt Ryan thing at Indianapolis would go a lot better. He looks awful. I mean, so there's been some awful quarterback play from guys that, not stars, obviously, but guys you thought could be better.
At some point, Indy needs to learn their lesson. I mean, we're like Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, like Jacoby Brissett. Like, what are we doing, guys? Like,
well, I think what happens so much is some of these teams, like Russell Wilson, you could throw that in the mix too. It's like, oh, the Rams got a veteran quarterback. Oh, and then they won the Super Bowl. We need to do the same thing. Here's what people don't realize: Matt Stafford is really good. He's not just a veteran quarterback. He was a very good veteran quarterback.
He's also significantly younger than Carson Wentz or Matt. Well, maybe not Carson Wentz, but definitely Matt Ryan. Yeah. And Russell Wilson's thing is needing to run around. Stafford doesn't need to run around. He's got a cannon for an arm and can read defenses and does no-look throws and is really good against the blitz because he can pick it apart. Like, completely different style quarterback that you're talking about, too. Like, give me the guy who, if you're going to sign a quarterback over 30, give me the really big arm, pocket mobility, can read a blitz.
Right. The guy that's been stuck in Detroit. He has more talent than these guys. That's the best way of saying it. Like, he was a guy that you thought, well, if he ever got on a good team, he would be a top 5 guy in the league. I never really thought that about Matt Ryan, Nope. So anyway.
Especially not 36-year-old Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the best bets for the day after that diatribe I learned that I thought it would. So that's good stuff. All right, let's talk about Papa Dude's best bet here. You want to kick us off? Tell us why he likes the Padres-Dodgers under tonight.
Yeah, he loves the pitching matchup. That's the big key. Thinks it'll be a pretty tightly contested game. Padres still trying to play for something there. And he just thinks the pitching matchup is going to lead to a very low-scoring game. He thought it was the best game on the docket tonight. Hard to argue. I think it's going to be a pretty darn good game. And, yeah, the pitching matchup's there, so I'll keep his short. He thought under 7.5 was the play today.
Yeah, San Diego Stadium also not exactly a run bonanza down there all that often, so a good place to play unders if you're looking for it. We're both going to go to the NL East here. I'm going to start out with the Mets laying a 1.5. Taijuan Walker tonight has a big pitching edge over Jesus Laredo, who was an ace prospect a couple of years back and has pitched okay, but just not that good. The thing here with Taijuan Walker for the Mets this year against Miami, he is 4-0 with a 2.23 ERA, 25 Ks in 32 innings. He destroys this Marlins team. This actual pitching matchup happened on the 11th of this month. The Mets won 9-3. Luardo gave up 6 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings. Walker went 7 innings, gave up 1 earned, struck out 10. I love the matchup one versus the other here. Walker obviously owns the Marlins, and Luardo struggled against the Mets. So we'll go right back to it. And the two teams that Aaron and I are talking about, well, they both clinched the playoffs, are both competing for the division, currently tied at the top with about 10 games left in the season. Both of these teams need wins and are playing bad teams tonight. I think that's why we're both laying the wood with them. So I'm going to go Mets minus a 1.5 plus $1.25 to kick off my week. Aaron, tell us why the Bravos are going to get the W as well.
Yeah, you took it right out of the words right out of my mouth. Look, they need to win. The Braves and Mets, like you said, tied for the division lead. Huge difference between winning the division and getting a wild card. So very important to try to get this division win. The Braves playing the Nationals, an even worse team in my estimation than the Marlins, even though neither one of them are great. But the Nationals, not a very good team whatsoever. You look at their pitcher throwing out a guy that's given up, his ERA is 5.17, not good. The Braves kind of got their worst starter. So that's kind of the downside of it. But look, they need to win this game. I don't know why the Nationals would even care about this game whatsoever. First 2 games of the series, 8-0 Braves, 8-2 Braves. I'm just going to play it again here and hope we get another 1.5 at least victory for the Braves. And the Braves and Mets are going to get to square off. I don't know if it's tomorrow or the weekend, but they've got a little series, so that'll probably end up deciding this thing. I think both of them take care of business tonight. I like your bet as well.
Yeah, I agree with yours. Washington's rolling out a AAA team at this point. A lot of these teams that are bottom feeders are teams that are going to end up saying, "Hey, we're gonna put out our prospects, see what we got here." You're right. We got one game tonight for the Braves and the Mets. Then we get a 3-game set between the two of them, and then they flip flop. The Braves get the Mets close with Washington, and the Braves close with Miami. So that 3-game series is going to be key. But you also cannot go 2-2 in those other 4 games here. You cannot split with the Marlins and the Nationals if you want to try and win the division, especially when you got those 3 games. You really got to go 3-1, 4-0, and then take it to your big opponent there in that series to hang on for the division.
Yeah, that's just the whole thing. You got to take advantage of when you're playing these bad teams, or it doesn't matter what you do. So against the Braves or the Mets, whichever side you're on there. So I just looked up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they are off tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday it starts. So that'll be if you like baseball. That's the most important series probably of the weekend. And
you get Sunday night baseball there with the Mets at Atlanta. So I'm sure you or Papa Dude will be taking the under on Sunday night. If it wasn't an NFL Sunday, I bet you would have the under on Sunday night because that was a popular one for a while.
Yep, for sure.
All right, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Let's run through the picks here in last week's record. Papa Dude taking the Dodgers, the Padres, under 7.5, -115. Aaron taking the Braves, -1.5, -125. I'm going to take the Mets, -1.5, +120. Last week, 7-9. But we made about $300. That doesn't suck. Year to date, up $2,604 off a $100 base bet. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this Wednesday Dudes Who Bet Daily. We'll be back tomorrow previewing the college football games, the NFL game tomorrow night in more depth, as well as our best bets for Thursday. Good luck at the track and good luck with your sports bets. We'll see everybody tomorrow.